The gun went off before I had time to pray. A deafening crack tore through the warehouse, metal screaming as the sound ricocheted off rusted beams. Pain exploded across my shoulder like fire ripping through bone, and for a split second the world tilted sideways. I remember thinking, absurdly, that I'd survived worse coffee in police break rooms than this. I hit the concrete hard. Someone screamed my name. A boy's voice. My grandson's voice. Then boots thundered. Shouts echoed. A man cursed. A body slammed into the floor beside me. The gun skittered away, clanging like a dropped coin in a cathedral of shadows. Don't move. I blinked, forcing air back into my lungs. Above me, dust drifted through the weak light spilling from cracked skylights. My shoulder burned, wet and hot, but my hand still worked. That mattered. I turned my head just enough to see him. The man who'd done this. Face down, wrists wrenched behind his back, screaming threats that sounded small now. Pathetic. Cornered. And behind the officers, trembling but alive, were my daughter-in-law and my grandson. Holding each other. Breathing. Alive. That was when I let myself pass out. The funny thing is, people think stories like this begin with courage or wisdom. They don't. They begin with a phone ringing when it absolutely shouldn't. The call came at a time that belongs to nightmares. Not late enough to still be evening. Not early enough to pretend it's morning. That dead hour where the world holds its breath. I'd been asleep in my chair, television humming quietly, when my phone vibrated itself off the side table and smacked the floor. I remember being annoyed. Retired life had made me soft. Then I saw the name. My grandson. I answered before the second ring. Grandma. No. Grandma, he corrected himself instantly, voice cracking. I need you. That single sentence stripped sleep from my bones. I'm here, I said, already standing, already reaching for clothes. Where are you? There was a pause. A breath. Then the words that turned my blood cold. They locked me in a cell. I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. They say I hurt him, he whispered. But he hit me first. I'd spent decades in uniform. I knew the tone of fear. This wasn't teenage panic. This was terror. Listen to me, I said, my voice going calm in that old way that used to make rookies stop shaking. Do not say another word to anyone. I'm coming. But I'm coming. I ended the call and stood there in the dark, heart pounding, staring at the wall where family photos hung crooked and tired. My grandson was in custody, and the man accusing him was the same man I'd distrusted since the day he'd entered our lives, smiling too much and shaking hands too firmly. A man with money. A man with friends. A man who believed rules bent for people like him. Idré said fast. Muscle memory never forgets. Shoes. Jacket. Wallet. Then I reached into the drawer I hadn't opened in years and took out my old badge. Expired. Scratched. Still heavy. I wasn't law enforcement anymore. But I knew how the game was played. And I knew exactly how dirty it could get. The drive felt longer than it was. Empty streets. Red lights blinking uselessly at intersections. The city looked innocent at that hour, like it didn't eat its young behind closed doors. When I pulled up to the precinct, my old precinct, something twisted in my chest. I'd given years of my life to that building. Now I was here to protect my own blood from it. Inside, the smell hadn't changed, burnt coffee and disinfectant, despair with a minty aftertaste. I stepped up to the desk. I'm here for my grandson. The officer didn't even look up. That was the first warning sign. I didn't know it yet, but by sunrise, a respected inspector would be exposed. A businessman's empire would begin collapsing. A corruption network would crack wide open. And my family would be forced into a war none of us asked for. All because one frightened boy made a call when the world was asleep. And because I answered. The desk officer finally looked up at me like I'd interrupted her favorite hobby. What? She said, fingers still moving on the keyboard. I'm here for my grandson, I repeated. He was brought in tonight. False assault charge. She sighed, the way people do when they think age equals inconvenience. Name. I gave it. Slowly. Clearly. Her eyebrows twitched just a little. That was my second warning sign. She picked up the phone, leaned back in her chair, and said, Lieutenant Reyes? There's a situation at the front desk. A moment later, a door opened down the hallway. And there he was. I hadn't seen him in years, but corruption ages people like bad milk. Same thick neck. Same eyes that never quite met yours. Same smile that said I can explain anything if you give me time. Wow, he said, spreading his arms like we were old friends at a reunion. Didn't expect to see you again. Neither did I said. Yet here we are. Lieutenant Reyes gestured toward his office. Let's talk. I want to see my grandson first. He blocked my path with a lazy step sideways. Let's talk, he repeated. That was my third warning sign. His office hadn't changed much. Bad art, fake plant, framed photo of him on a boat with men who all looked like they owned more lawyers than morals. One of them looked very familiar. I leaned forward, squinting. Well, that explains everything. Reyes followed my gaze, then smiled thinly. Careful. Oh, I am, I said. I always am. He sat down, steepled his fingers. Your grandson attacked his stepfather tonight. We have video. Show me. He hesitated. Just a heartbeat. But I saw it. That hesitation has sent innocent people to prison. He turned the screen toward me. The clip played. A living room. Raised voices. My grandson stepping backward. A shove. The man falling. And that's it. I asked. That's sufficient. No, I said calmly. That's edited. Reyes's smile tightened. You always did have opinions. And you always did have friends in convenient places. I stood. I want to see my grandson. Reyes exhaled like I was a stubborn child. 5 minutes. The holding area was quiet in that eerie way that makes every sound echo louder than it should. And then I saw him. Sitting on a bench. Shoulders slumped. Face bruised. My heart did something sharp and ugly inside my chest. He looked up when he heard my footsteps. And when he saw me, he broke. I wrapped my arms around him, ignoring the guard watching us like this was a TV show. It's okay, I whispered. I'm here. I didn't do it, he said, words tumbling over each other. He hit me. He always does. I pulled back just enough to look at his face. The injuries weren't subtle. They were documented, waiting to happen. Listen to me, I said. I believe you. Behind me, Reyes cleared his throat. Time. I turned slowly. Funny, I said. I don't remember giving you permission to rush me. He didn't answer. That told me everything. I stepped out of the cell and faced him. Why isn't the stepfather here? I asked. Why hasn't he been examined? Why isn't this marked as a domestic incident? Reyes shrugged. He claims the boy resisted arrest. I laughed. I couldn't help it. It burst out of me, short, sharp, humorless. You expect me to believe officers injured a teenager accidentally while arresting him for pushing a grown man? Reyes leaned closer. This isn't your precinct anymore. No, I agreed. Which is why I'm calling someone who doesn't owe you favors. His eyes darkened. Don't. I already was. The woman who answered didn't waste words. This better be important. It is, I said. And it's dirty. There was a pause. Then, I'm on my way. I ended the call and slipped my phone back into my pocket. Reyes stared at me like I'd just pulled a pin on a grenade and smiled. You think you still matter? I don't think, I said. I know. Because here's what corrupt people never understand. They assume everyone is as compromised as they are. They forget some of us stayed clean out of sheer stubbornness. Minutes later, the front doors opened. And the stepfather walked in. Bandage on his face. Smugness fully intact. Our eyes met. He smiled. That smile said, I own this room. I smiled back. Mine said, you have no idea what you've started. The stepfather didn't even pretend to look injured. He strutted across the precinct like it was his office, nodding at officers who suddenly found the floor fascinating. Confidence like that doesn't come from innocence. It comes from protection. He leaned against the wall near the holding cells, arms crossed, eyes fixed on me. Well, he said pleasantly, this is awkward. For you, I replied. Very. He chuckled. You always were dramatic. I stepped closer until he could smell the coffee on my breath. And you always confused power with immunity. His smile flickered. Just for a second. That's when the doors opened again. And the room shifted. The woman who walked in didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Authority followed her like a shadow that knew exactly where to stand. She shook my hand firmly. I heard you were causing trouble. Only the necessary kind, I said. Behind her came a medical examiner carrying a case. And a look that said he hadn't been told the full story. Good. Very good. The exam room was small and cold, designed for efficiency, not comfort. My grandson sat on the edge of the table, fists clenched in his lap. The doctor worked methodically. Photographs. Measurements. Notes. How did you receive these injuries? He asked. My grandson glanced at me. I nodded. He hit me, my grandson said. First in the face. Then shoved me into the wall. The doctor hummed quietly as he examined the bruising. This swelling, he said, tapping lightly near the eye, matches a blow several hours old. Not recent restraint. Reyes shifted behind us. The doctor continued, unfazed. And this cut, impact injury. Not a fist. The room went very quiet. The woman beside me, still calm, still watching everything, turned to Reyes. This contradicts your report. Reyes swallowed. Reports can be amended. Only when they're wrong, she replied. I liked her. The stepfather didn't like her at all. What is this? He snapped. I'm the victim here. She didn't even look at him. You're a person of interest. His confidence cracked like cheap glass. I want my lawyer. You'll get one, she said. Right after we secure all relevant evidence. He laughed nervously. You already have the footage. Yes, she replied. The edited footage. I tilted my head. You know what's funny? No one asked, but I continued anyway. People who manipulate evidence always forget one thing. The stepfather frowned. Neighbors. The elderly woman arrived clutching her phone like a trophy. She was tiny, sharp-eyed. The kind of woman who knew everyone's business and considered it a civic duty. I hope I'm not late, she said. I brought everything. She hit play. The audio filled the room. Shouting. Threats. A man's voice snarling things no parent should ever say to a child. Then video. Clear. Unedited. Damning. The stepfather went pale. Reyes went gray. The woman beside me closed her eyes for a brief second, then opened them again, resolved. That, she said softly, changes everything. The fallout was immediate. Orders barked. Phones ringing. Officers moving like ants after their nest was kicked. My grandson was released. The stepfather was escorted. No longer smug, no longer loud. Reyes was told to surrender his badge pending investigation. He didn't look at me as they took it. Coward. Dawn crept in through the precinct windows as we stepped outside. My grandson breathed in the morning air like he'd been underwater too long. Is it over? He asked. I looked at the sky. No, I said. But now it's honest. And honesty is dangerous to people who survive on lies. That night, as he slept on my couch, phone face down on the table, I stared at the door. Because men like his stepfather don't lose quietly. They escalate. They corner. They strike when they think they have nothing left to lose. And somewhere out there, a man with connections was realizing his world was collapsing. Which meant the real danger hadn't passed. It was just getting started. The call came less than 2 days later. That alone told me everything. Men like him don't wait. They don't reflect. They don't apologize. They retaliate. I was in the kitchen making tea my grandson didn't need, and toast he wasn't going to eat when my phone lit up. Unknown number. I answered anyway. That was my first mistake of the day. You cost me everything, his voice hissed. Gone was the smooth confidence. This voice was raw, frayed at the edges. You think you won? I stayed calm. Panic feeds predators. Where is she? I asked. Silence. Then a soft sound in the background. Crying. My stomach dropped. You have 1 hour, he said. Bring the boy. Come alone. Click. The phone went dead. I didn't tell my grandson the truth right away. I tried. I really did. But he knows me too well. He saw it in my face before I could soften it. She's taken, isn't she? I closed my eyes. Yes. He stood up immediately. Then we're going. No, I said. I am. It's my mother, he said, voice steady in a way that broke my heart. You're not doing this without me. I wanted to argue, to shout, to command, but fear has a way of making honesty unavoidable. So I nodded. I called the only person I trusted. She didn't waste time. It's a trap, she said. I know. We'll have units moving in. Quietly. I know. Don't be a hero. I smiled grimly. Too late for that. The warehouse sat at the end of an industrial road no one used anymore. Broken windows. Graffiti like warnings. Silence thick enough to choke on. I parked a block away. My grandson's hands shook, but his eyes didn't. That scared me more than fear ever could. The phone rang again. I see you, the voice said. Get inside. The door creaked open like it knew what was coming. Inside, the air smelled of rust and old mistakes. Back here, he called. We walked between shadows and broken machines until the open space revealed itself. He stood there holding her. One arm clamped around her, the other free. His eyes were wild. You should have stayed retired, he sneered. You don't belong in this world anymore. I stepped forward. You dragged a child into it, I said. That's where you went wrong. He laughed, a sharp, broken sound. You taught him to lie. No, my grandson said quietly. You taught me to survive. That's when the man snapped. He lunged. Everything happened at once. The gun came out. The shot rang. Pain tore through my shoulder. And I tackled him anyway. Because some instincts don't age. As we hit the floor, I heard shouting. Boots. Commands. The gun skittered away. Hands yanked him off me. Cuffs snapped shut. And just like that, it was over. I lay there staring at the ceiling, pain pulsing, breath shallow. My grandson knelt beside me, tears streaming. I'm here, he kept saying. I'm here. I smiled at him. I know, I said. You always are. I woke up to white ceilings and the steady beep of machines that exist solely to remind you that you're still breathing. Pain radiated from my shoulder in dull waves, but it was the good kind. The kind that tells you the bullet didn't finish the job. I turned my head. My grandson was asleep in a chair beside the bed, his chin resting on his chest, one hand still gripping the sleeve of my hospital gown like I might vanish if he let go. That's when I knew we'd won. Not legally. Not publicly. But where it mattered. The charges came fast. Kidnapping. Attempted murder. Assault. Witness intimidation. Evidence tampering. The list was long enough to make even his best friends suddenly forget his number. The inspector who tried to bury the truth? Suspended first. Arrested shortly after. Turns out loyalty evaporates when indictments start raining down. Funny how that works. My daughter-in-law arrived later that day. She looked smaller somehow. Lighter. Like someone who'd been carrying a weight so long she'd forgotten what standing straight felt like. She cried when she saw me. Then she cried harder when she hugged her son. I didn't see it, she kept saying. I should have seen it. I held her hand. Seeing comes after safety. I told her. You're seeing now. That's what matters. The trial took months. The evidence spoke louder than any speech ever could. Videos. Medical reports. Witnesses. My grandson's testimony. Clear, steady, unflinching. I watched him from the gallery. That once scared boy now standing tall. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not the soft kind. The earned kind. Sentencing day was quiet. No drama. No shouting. Just numbers being read aloud that meant one thing. He would never touch them again. The inspector went down too. Career erased. Pension gone. Reputation buried deeper than any badge ever could be. Justice doesn't roar. It clicks into place. Life didn't magically turn perfect after that. Healing never does. But something changed. My grandson started sleeping through the night. My daughter-in-law started laughing again, tentatively at first, like she was testing whether joy was allowed. And me? I stopped flinching every time my phone rang. A few weeks later, someone from the city called. Then the district office. Then a reporter. They wanted to talk about procedure changes, digital evidence, oversight. Turns out what happened exposed more than just one rotten man. It exposed a system flaw. They named the new protocol after us. I didn't want that. But my grandson smiled when he heard. Maybe it'll help someone else, he said. That's when I agreed. Now, when I wake up in the mornings, my shoulder still aches when the weather shifts. It reminds me I'm alive. It reminds me I didn't look away. And sometimes, when the house is quiet, I think about that phone call. About how close everything came to breaking. About how courage doesn't always look like strength. Sometimes it looks like a trembling voice saying, I'm scared. Please help me. And someone answering. Every time. Please click the subscribe button, like, share, and comment. This will encourage me to make more interesting stories. Also, let's know where you are watching from. Thank you and see you in the next story.